All right, what I am doing here is I'm actually working on a Turbo Chef i3. I am in the process of replacing the magnetos in the back. Again, one of these things that you have to be pay close attention to, because there are some hazards involved. For one, your high capacity transformer, high voltage capacitor sitting here does not bleed off on its own, so you need to make sure you bleed the energy off of it before you start. Ensure that your unit is unplugged. You don't want voltage coming to it while you're working on it. There are covers that go on here, which I've already removed. I will show you how they go on. I've actually already replaced this side and I'm putting it back together. This cover is slotted and just slides in. Be careful not to hit your capacitor while you're putting it in, and everything should be good. I have discharged my capacitor, so I don't have anything to worry about. I'm still very cautious though, because one mistake in one of these things could end your life. One of the things I like to do, you will notice before I pull one out, before I pull anything out, is look at the wiring. Okay? If you look on this wire, you'll see it's labeled C1-2. Okay, we know it goes here. I'm going to mark the capacitor C1-2. The other wire, as you can see, is labeled C1-3. I'm going to label it C1-3. There is a red wire on there too, so I'm going to mark that RED. Now, no matter what, when I go to put my wires back on, I will know exactly what wire goes where. Once those are marked, then I can remove them very carefully again, using my insulated tools to ensure there's no chance of me getting shocked. Just pop them off. This eliminates your high voltage capacitor from the circuit, thus assisting another safe way for you not to get shocked. These high voltage capacitors can have up to 1,000 volts in them. This is a very primitive way to cover them up and to ensure the leads are covered. I use a piece of cardboard, just with a piece of tape wrapped around it. Why? Because the tape will keep it from falling off on you while you're working. Now that those are removed, I can actually unhook my magneto. It is now no longer in the circuit. The other two wires, that is actually just a safety tool. It reads the amount of voltage going through the magneto and sends it back to the main control board. If it does not sense enough voltage, it will send an error code to the computer telling it to shut down. You'll notice on here there are 4 screws, 2 on this side and 2 on that side. Take all 4 out evenly. You don't have to keep the ones you're taking out, simply because of the fact that the factory sends you all brand new ones. I like to pull the screws out first, and then I will deal with the sensor that's on the side of it. That you do keep and has to be put back on the new magneto prior to installation. Now that I have the magneto out, this is why I said I don't bother with the wires until after I get it out, because there is a clip that you unclip to eliminate it from the circuit, and you can set it on the table to remove it from this one and put it on the other one. You'll notice there are 2 screws on here holding it in place. These screws are self-tappers. They are sliders as well. Therefore, you only actually have to undo one completely. The other one, you just loosen up, simply because of the fact, like I said, it's on a slider, as you'll see here in just a second. Now they are self-tappers, so they can kind of be a pain in the butt. see now, I've now successfully removed it. As you can see, there are a lot of holes in the magneto. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to line my sensor up so I can see exactly which holes I need to go in. Then I'm going to, these are, again, using self-tapping screws so they're not tapped. Take it back off now that I know which holes they go into. And I'm going to pre-tap the holes with the screws. That way I don't have a problem putting them in while the sensor is there. I've now pre-tapped my screws. You will notice that I have only removed one, not both screws. Again, why? Because this slides on, so there's no need to remove both of them. I have now reinstalled my sensor, and I'm getting ready to reinstall the magneto. Take note on the bottom, you will see that there are a couple wire mesh insulators there. You want to make sure you get those lined up correctly over the hole, as if they're not, that's where you're going to get your radiation leakage into your oven. Again, you will notice these do not seal completely down to start with. The holes, again, are not already tapped, so the new screws are self-tappers. Just be careful as you put them in not to bend these tabs. If you bend these tabs, then again, you can cause it to sit up and it not seal properly. Now I've got all my wires screws put back in. I'm now going to do this one at a time in the reverse order. I'm going to plug my magneto back in. I've now plugged back in my sensor. And again, time to reconnect my wires to here. I'm going to grab my red wire, put it on, again using my shielded tools, that way I don't get shocked. My C3, back to the C3 position. My C2, back to the C2 position. These don't matter which one you put them on because they are actually tied together inside the plastic cap. Now I know you did not see me take this cover off, but there is another metal cover here that goes in place. Carefully slide it back in, not to knock anything off, as I just did with that plastic piece. Again, there are two screws that go into this one, which I'll put in. Pay special attention to the fact you had a ground wire that was attached to this side, so you want to make sure that goes back. Now that those screws are back in, everything in this unit is now done, except for reassembly. Again, I just have the side panel that goes on for your magneto. Again, carefully slide it on. With that on, you're now ready to reassemble your top, your sides, and replug in your wiring harness. The wiring harness is very simple because if you notice, no plug is alike. There's only one place they can plug into. That's something you can look at when you take the top off initially. Note on the side panels, they have a couple slots. They just slide onto the front, and then the back and the sides are bolted. There are 3 holes in the back, 2 in the middle for you to put the screws back in. See here, I've now successfully installed the side panels and the top. I have not put any screws yet in. The reason being is you want to make sure everything's lined up and does line up in the proper position before putting your screws in. Once in, then you can put all your screws in all at once, and then we'll go into reconnecting the wiring. Now, all of my screws have been put in place. Open your hood. There you'll notice there is a bar right here that actually attaches above. And has a nut that goes on it just to hold it in place. As that piece holds your top up. Now, let's start getting our wires reconnected. Got your wiring harness. This is the biggest one you got to pay attention to. This is your magnetic loop. If you look up here, you'll see the hole that it goes through. You need 1 full turn to ensure that it is correct. One thing you'll notice is there's not really enough wire to actually hook it up with the lid completely open. So once you get it, I would wrap it so you know where it goes. As you lower the lid down, then you will reconnect it to the other end. Grab your plugs. You'll see on the back here. Can you see those? Yes. Now, again, like I said, each plug has one specific spot that it can go. It will not go anywhere else. Now my wires have been completely installed. You'll notice there are a couple of extras. That's okay. Those are for options that we do not have on this unit. This concludes how to change them out and reinstall it. I'm about to fire it up and make sure it works. As you can see, my unit is now back on. I've had it leak tested after repairing it. Make sure that I got no radiation coming out of it. Let's turn her on. And it comes on immediately. What caused me to go to the Magneto is the fact that I was getting a low mag fault. This tells you that your Magneto is getting low on voltage and may possibly be repaired. There are about 18 different steps of testing to figure out that's what it is, but once you know what it is when you need to know how to change it safely.